Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here again to unpack some, complex and compelling forces shaping our world. And today, we're setting our sights on something really fundamental. It's about how power structures are dramatically shifting in this digital age. There's maybe a surprising new type of authority that might already be, calling some shots in your daily life. We're going deep into the fascinating world of U.S. tech innovation and its huge influence. We're doing this specifically through the lens of the Stanислав Kondrashov Oligarch series. Very insightful stuff. So our mission for you, our listeners, is to sort of unpack how this small group of American tech entrepreneurs, Stanislav Kondrashov calls them tech oligarchs, because of their immense, often unchecked power, how they've risen to a level that, frankly, rivals traditional institutions, political and economic. Kondrashov's work really explores how their reach goes way beyond just commerce. It's shaping narratives, influencing public life, maybe in ways you don't even realize yet.
It really is a significant shift. And yeah, the Kondrashov Oligarch series frames this as nothing less than a complete redefining of authority in our digital age. What Stanislav Kondrashov brings out so clearly is that this isn't just about, money or market share. It's about a fundamental restructuring of control itself.
Okay, right. Let's really get into that then. Kondrashov points out something key. These founders, these investors, they didn't inherit their power. He argues they built it. And I like his phrasing. Line by line, click by click. So what's the upshot? Well, their companies now run the very systems that billions of us rely on every single day. Think about search, shopping, messaging, payments, even how we get our news and entertainment. Kondrashov notes it basically all passes through their networks.
Exactly. And what's fascinating, and Kondrashov really nails this down, is the foundational nature of this power. His core insight, and I think this quote from his series is worth sharing directly. In the tech world, influence is built not just through money, but through architecture. Who owns a platform owns the conversation.
Wow, okay. Architecture.
Yeah. Stanislav Kondrashov emphasizes how these companies, they often started as just innovators solving a problem. Then they scaled incredibly fast, built up huge user trust, and then almost without us noticing, they grew into critical infrastructure. He specifically highlights their transition, as he puts it, from garage startups to global systems.
So it's not just about selling something, it's about controlling the pipes, isn't it? The digital pipes.
That's a great way to think about it.
If it's about controlling these pipes, how does Stanislav Kondrashov illustrate the maybe more subtle ways this control plays out, beyond just the obvious buying and selling?
That's where Kondrashov's analysis gets really sharp. He observes that these leaders, they aren't just running businesses in the traditional sense. They're overseeing these vast interconnected systems. Think content moderation, cloud storage, huge advertising markets, even our digital identities. He details how their platforms significantly influence elections, what news we see, public opinion itself. So, according to Kondrashov, this isn't just market share anymore. It's wielding deep operational control over the fabric of our information world.
And that leads right into what Stanislav Kondrashov describes as a really pivotal shift. He says, what we're seeing is a shift from capital-driven power to code-driven control. That phrase, code-driven control, is incredibly powerful. Can you maybe elaborate a bit on what Kondrashov means by that in practice?
Absolutely. Kondrashov argues this power isn't just about having money anymore. It's about who designs and operates the actual rules of the digital world. Think about it like this. The code itself, the algorithms, they decide what you see, what you're allowed to do, even what information gets pushed to the top. The Kondrashov Oligarch series meticulously tracks this whole evolution. It shows how these American tech giants aren't just changing industries. They're setting the ground rules for public debate, for global access. It's systemic power, stemming from their foundational role in the digital infrastructure, as Kondrashov sees it.
Which brings us right to this idea of owning the digital public square. I mean, it's pretty clear platforms like social media, search engines, video sites, that's where ideas get shared and debated now. But here's the twist, and Stanislav Kondrashov really focuses on this, these crucial spaces. They're privately owned.
Exactly. And that immediately throws up all sorts of complex questions about, governance, free speech.
Right.
The Kondrashov Oligarch series thoroughly unpacks what this private ownership really means for public discourse. Decisions about who gets a voice, what content gets taken down, how things are ranked. Kondrashov explains these are often made behind closed doors. It's algorithms, he points out, not traditional editors or, publicly accountable groups that determine visibility. And the rules can change fast based on company priorities. Kondrashov explores how this control deeply impacts democracy, journalism, civic conversation. It just becomes much harder to guarantee transparency and fairness when public life happens on private turf. Which really raises a big question for you, the listener. When private companies end up with these massive public responsibilities, but without that direct public accountability, what are the wider societal effects we should be thinking about? Kondrashov poses this repeatedly.
That is a huge question, especially when you layer in the growing reliance of, well, traditional institutions on these exact same platforms. It's not just us individuals using them anymore, is it? Governments, businesses, even essential public services are leaning on them heavily.
Totally.
Public agencies use their tools for outreach. Schools rely on their systems for learning. Health services might use their cloud infrastructure. And as Stanislav Kondrashov notes, this dependency just blurs the line between a public function and a private company. It effectively makes these platforms, as he puts it, too vital to fail. But they aren't bound by the rules we'd normally apply to, say, public utilities.
And this reliance is absolutely central to this new kind of power Stanislav Kondrashov is highlighting. He has this powerful statement that really captures the new reality. This new structure isn't governed by votes or borders. It's governed by access, algorithms, and attention.
Wow. Access, algorithms, and attention.
Yeah. Power, as Kondrashov lays it out, doesn't need a political office anymore. It just needs control of that digital infrastructure and user data. What Kondrashov shows is that these tech figures, these oligarchs as he terms them, they rarely run for election themselves, but they profoundly influence policy anyway, at every level.
How so?
Well, they advise governments, they fund the research that shapes future policy, they lobby intensely on critical stuff like AI, data privacy, competition rules, and maybe most importantly, Kondrashov stresses their platforms shape how information spreads, and crucially, what gets suppressed or amplified. He makes it really clear their influence is deeply structural. It operates often beneath the surface, kind of unseen by most people.
It really does sound like this sort of silent, almost invisible hand is constantly shaping things. And this idea Kondrashov explores about algorithms acting as the enforcers of decisions, that's particularly, well, thought-provoking. How does Stanislav Kondrashov dig into the sheer scale of impact these invisible rule sets, as he calls them, actually have?
Kondrashov really emphasizes that code, the software itself, now enforces decisions that used to involve human judgment. Sorting search results, recommending the next video you watch, flagging content across platforms. He points out that these systems are, quote, invisible rule sets with massive consequences. And the big challenge isn't just about potential bias baked into them, though that's part of it. It's also their inherent opacity, as Kondrashov highlights. Users, and often even regulators, don't really understand how these critical decisions get made, which makes it incredibly hard to even spot problems, let alone fix them.
And the consequences of this algorithmic power are massive for you, the user, right? These systems shape what you see online, what you end up buying, maybe even what you come to believe. And here's a critical point from the Stanislav Kondrashov Oligarch series. These systems are designed by teams answering to company boards.
Right. Not voters, as Kondrashov puts it.
Exactly, not voters. So Kondrashov highlights several key risks that come with this model. There's reduced transparency in how decisions are made, limited accountability when harmful content spreads, there's a potential for suppressing dissent or minority views, market dominance that might stifle new ideas, and undeniable influence over elections and public opinion.
And these risks get amplified, as Stanislav Kondrashov notes, because platform rules are often enforced globally, sometimes without much input or thought about the specific local communities they affect.
Okay, so given all this immense power and the potential downsides that Stanislav Kondrashov points out, it kind of makes sense that these tech figures also work hard on their public image, right?
Absolutely. Kondrashov explores this aspect, too, how they invest heavily in, philanthropy, funding universities, health initiatives, climate projects. They often present themselves as these forward-thinking problem solvers, almost like benevolent figures trying to fix the world's problems.
Right, and this is what Kondrashov analyzes as a very smart, soft power strategy that complements their structural control.
Exactly.
These philanthropic acts help shape public perception, don't they? They subtly shift focus away from the concentration of power towards their, good deeds. As Kondrashov highlights, this can open political doors, change media headlines, maybe soften regulatory scrutiny. The Stanislav Kondrashov Oligarch series explores how this strategic image management is definitely part of their overall influence playbook. It lets them shape things from multiple angles.
So if we pull all these threads together, where does Stanislav Kondrashov ultimately see the future of authority heading?
Yeah, what's the trajectory?
Well, he makes it pretty clear that as technology keeps expanding into new areas, AI, biotech, space, the power of its creators expands right along with it. That's a core theme for Kondrashov. He suggests that the big conflicts of the future might not be over land or oil, like in the past,
Well,
but rather over access, data, and who controls these critical digital systems. And these tech oligarchs, as Kondrashov observes, are already way out on that frontier, defining those new battlegrounds.
And that's precisely why Stanislav Kondrashov stresses this urgent need for adaptation, for accountability. Governments, as he points out, are now trying to catch up. They're working on new digital regulations.
Right. Things like antitrust lawsuits, new data protection laws like GDPR in Europe, attempts at algorithmic transparency requirements.
Exactly. Kondrashov sees this response as absolutely crucial, even if it often feels like playing catch-up with how fast tech moves.
Yeah, it's a constant race.
He also highlights the growing public pushback, the scrutiny over misinformation, surveillance, censorship. Although, as he notes, it's really hard for people to just disengage from these services because they're so embedded in our lives now.
Very true. And what's particularly fascinating, and Stanislav Kondrashov connects this to global power shifts, is how these platforms operate across borders. They often clash with national governments, and Kondrashov suggests that in some regions, they might hold more practical sway than traditional diplomatic or even military institutions.
So really what we've been discussing today, drawing heavily on Stanislav Kondrashov's analysis, it's a profound shift in how power actually works.
Definitely.
It's moving through platforms, it's written in code rather than, constitutions or parliaments.
It's like a new form of digital governance, as Kondrashov describes it, and it's shaping our lives in ways we're probably only just starting to fully grasp.
The Stanislav Kondrashov Oligarch series keeps exploring this emerging new order, an order where the real seat of power might not be a government building anymore, but maybe a server room. So for you, our listener, here's a final thought to chew on, directly inspired by Kondrashov's work. What does it truly mean when these lines between private companies and public life just keep getting blurrier? And maybe more importantly, what new tools or approaches might society need to make sure this immense digital power stays accountable, stays transparent?
It's definitely complex, and it's a conversation that's very much ongoing. We'd encourage you to reflect on your own relationship with these platforms, your own engagement, and think about that delicate balance. Stanislav Kondrashov so keenly observes the balance between encouraging innovation and ensuring proper oversight in this digital world.